All right, that does it for our halftime interviews. Let's send it back to the studio. We have Jeannie Moon and John Zoni with the halftime highlights for you.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the studio. Jeannie Moon here with John Zoni, and it was a first half.
Yes, it was.
Score right in the beginning, score right at the end.
It was a lot of ebb and flows in it, as we said in the pregame. We thought if Sacred Heart was going to make this a game, they were going to have to be, very tough defensively. After one play, you weren't sure that was going to happen, but then they Sacred Heart knuckled down, made it very tough for the Sharks for most of the rest of the half until the final drive in which the Sharks retook the lead.
I know, and I mean, to open up in the first 12 seconds, and all of a sudden you hear that 75-yard run from Lucas Danzani, and it was just like lightning. You couldn't even believe it. So this is how it sounded from the field.
Awaiting the snap from the shotgun formation. He keeps it on the option, tries the right side. Big hole, 40, 45, 50. He may go. 30, 20, 10. Touchdown, LIU.
And I thought Jeff was going to lose his mind.
Well, especially we've been talking all day about coming off the big win against Eastern Michigan last week. It's homecoming this week, and you couldn't ask for a better start than that. A 75-yard touchdown run for Lucas Danzani on the first play. 12 seconds in, it's 7-0. But then things got very tight, and for the most part, for most of the rest of the first half, Sacred Heart controlled the football and had some sustained drives, although one of their better drives prior to their score ended up resulting in no points thanks to this play.
Ball spotted at the 20, middle of the field. Snyder calling out signals out of the shotgun. Quick drop, looks right, floats it down to the near side. It's deflected and picked off at the 5-yard line. Out across the 10 to the 15 to the 20, cutting inside over the 30 to the 35-yard line and knocked out of bounds. Trey Watkins picks up the pick after the deflection at the line of scrimmage. It's a turnover, and the Sharks will take over.
So Trey Watkins for the interception, stunting what was a very good Sacred Heart drive, but after an LIU punt, which pinned Sacred Heart in deep, the visiting Pioneers would eventually get on the board with a sustained drive of over 7 minutes that ended with this.
And in motion from left to right. Here's the handoff again inside the 5, inside the end zone. It's a touchdown. It was Mitchell Summers on the touchdown run. It is 7-6, and Sacred Heart with an opportunity to tie the game on a 99-yard drive that began at their own 1.
Yeah, and I think that was key there for bringing Sacred Heart, giving them probably a boost of confidence there. 99 yards sustained over 7 minutes. I mean, that's just outstanding. I mean, it's similar to that run they had last week in Eastern Michigan. The Sharks had 9 minutes, 44 seconds, and 16 plays. It was just, outstanding. And when a team can get that and hold on to the possession, that's going to, it's going to unnerve the opposition and give the team who did that a boost.
Yes, but immediately after that touchdown, the Sharks would get a drive going, helped in part by a personal foul penalty on the ensuing kickoff,
right,
which set up the Sharks in very good field position. Drove down deep, got a big 4th down conversion to set them up right on the doorstep, and then it took the lead on this play.
Handoff inside. Ross powers his way through. Touchdown Sharks. Right up the gut. Bounced off the defender. And the Sharks take a 13-7 lead.
And it was 56 seconds left to play in the half. And, we were talking about in the pregame show how Ron Cooper would have to keep his team grounded and not let the Pioneers get into their headspace. And I really think this rebound here, where they were able to come back, score so late in the half so that they could go out, at halftime with a lead is just crucial.
Absolutely, Jeannie. And also, since Sacred Heart will receive the second half kickoff for the Sharks, I knew somebody was going to do that today, and it turns out to be me. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
For the Sharks to get that late touchdown, retake the lead, and go into halftime up 14-7, very important, because as Jeff and Neil and Travis have said, this is, these teams play each other every year, either as conference opponents or now in non-conference, now that Sacred Heart is currently an FCS independent, and also given the proximity, it's not that long a trip from Brookville to Fairfield. So there's a little. It's been a contentious game because these programs are very familiar with each other,
right?
And so it's been a spirited contest so far. It'll be interesting to see how things go.
So what do you expect to see in the second half?
I think a lot will probably be determined by the opening possession for Sacred Heart. It's like if they are able to continue to move the ball offensively as they did for most of the first, if they can get points, I think that could put the Sharks a little bit on the back foot. If the Sharks can force a 3 and out, and even if they get the ball back and don't necessarily really score, if they can get a sustained drive, because they really haven't had that yet. They had the one they scored on the first play from scrimmage in the game, and even their touchdown drive, it was a condensed drive because of the field position off the kickoff and the personal foul. So we haven't really seen the type of drives from the Sharks that we saw last week against Eastern Michigan, and I think that would be a huge boost to the Sharks if they could 3 and out, or even if the whole Sacred Heart to a first down, get the ball back, and start to look offensively more like they did a week ago, I think would be a use. So I think the first couple of possessions of the second half are going to be crucial in this game.
Yeah, and if you were Ron Cooper, what would you be? If you could whisper in Ron Cooper's ear right now, what would you tell him?
Well, I think it needs to echo. It's like similar to what he said in the pregame interview. It's like, you need to refocus. Eastern Michigan win was great, but now you have to focus on Sacred Heart. And so I just think, he's in there reminding guys, it's like, nobody's handing anything to us just because we beat an FBS team last week.
Okay, so we're going to be heading back to the field right now. We'll be back. John and I will be back for the post-game wrap-up, and we'll talk to you later.
All right, welcome back to Shark Stadium. Let's send it back to our LIU Sports Radio studios, Jeannie Moon and John Zoni.
Welcome back to the studio. That was not what we expected today. Sacred Heart edges out the LIU Sharks 24-21. It was a nail-biter to the end. And, John, what are your thoughts?
Well, we said it a couple of times over the sitting here in the studio. This is like a mirror image or reverse image of last week. Last week, the Sharks 479 yards total offense to just 311 for Eastern Michigan. Today, Sharks were outgained by Sacred Heart 407 to 208. Sacred Heart had the ball for over 38 minutes. Sacred Heart, between third down and fourth down conversions, 10 of 19. The Sharks 1 of 10. It was just, it's we talked about trap game, and also it's like Sacred Heart being prepared. Obviously coming in with a.
They came in with a mission. They really did.
And they pretty much executed it.
Yeah, and that was it. And they didn't ever give up. They never let a turnover. They never let something unexpected happen that would have, that could have unnerved them. And they just kept plugging away. And right from the beginning of the second half, what did you see that maybe made you a little bit worried for the Pioneers?
Well, actually, things started out
for the Sharks.
Yeah, and now we both in it. But anyway, It's one of those. It's like it started off. They forced a 3 and out for one of the rare times. They possessed the ball. They got a special teams touchdown. And it looked like things were, but Sacred Heart, they just kept grinding it out and converting third downs, and the Sharks couldn't get them off the field a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I think that's it. I mean, they were really good at just keeping hold of the ball. I mean, which is key. I mean, and they didn't push. I mean, let's talk about that special teams touchdown.
Yeah, that was it. It looked like it was going to be a momentum turner for the Sharks. It's like as we mentioned, Sacred Heart didn't do anything with their first possession of the second half. Sharks moved the ball a little bit, had a punt, and then on the punt, this happened.
So Lynch will come on to punt. He stands at his 26-yard line. A sidewinding kick. Caught through the hands of the defender, picked up in the end zone. It's a touchdown by the Sharks. The return man, Jason Palmieri, couldn't hold on to it. It went through his hands into the end zone. The Sharks recover it for a touchdown.
Jalen Lewis was the player that eventually recovered the muff punt in the end zone. Extra point was good. 21-7 Sharks at that point. And again, it looked like the momentum was turning, but on the ensuing drive, Sacred Heart, as they did for most of the game, ground the ball, maintained possession, and eventually responded.
Under a minute to play. First down and 10 here in the third quarter. Looking down the near side, lofting the pass up, picked off! Bringing it across the side to the 35, to the 30, to the 27. Braylon Vincent with the interception, and that will flip the field and give the Sharks terrific field position. That's the second interception on that side of the field today.
Braylon Vincent with an interception later in the third quarter. John Michalski scored a 3-yard run to cut the gap to 21-14. The Vincent interception led to a field goal attempt, which was missed. And then early in the fourth quarter, after a muffed punt by the Sharks set up Sacred Heart in good field position, the Pioneers tied the game.
Sacred Heart ball at the Sharks 5, first and goal. Malkowski with the ball. Handoff straight up the middle. Touchdown for Sacred Heart. Curtis Whiting, untouched, 5 yards, touchdown. And Sacred Heart a point away from tying this game with 12 minutes and 15 seconds left.
And that after the extra point, the game was indeed tied at 21. And then, both teams traded possessions. And then finally, Sacred Heart got the ball back late in the quarter. And as we mentioned, just converted third downs every time they needed to and eventually got in position for this.
Sacred Heart setting up for a 21-yard field goal. 3 seconds on the clock. The score is tied at 21. Sacred Heart either wins it or we go to overtime. Kling lines up. Here comes the snap. The hold. The kick is on the way. It is good. And Sacred Heart wins the ball game 24-21.
Matt Kling with the 21-yarder for Sacred Heart, who improves to 2-1 with their 24-21 win. The Sharks now fall to 1-2 and go on the road next week against 5th-ranked Rhode Island, who they played a strong game against at Homecoming last year, falling 28-24. And again, we talked about it in the pregame, Jeannie. Trap game. It's like, how do you refocus after such a big win? And it's like, I wouldn't say all of the worst fears were realized, but enough of them were that it resulted in a defeat.
And that's exactly what I was thinking. It's like, as I was listening to the second half, I was like, you could feel, and Travis mentioned up from the booth that he would like to hear Coach Cooper's reasons for keeping Stanzani out in the fourth quarter. Like, what was going on there?
Right. You do wonder if there was an injury, because again, he has a little bit more experience than Howell. Yeah. And also, as Travis said toward the end, it's like, he wondered why they didn't take a timeout sooner when Sacred Heart got into field goal range, give themselves a little bit more of a chance for a desperation play at the end. A little
time to regroup, just to kind of get a sense of what they had to do. And so I don't, we don't always know we don't know what goes on in the mind of a coach. We don't know what makes decisions. But let's look ahead at the Sharks' schedule coming up. We have Rhode Island coming. We have Stonehill coming. What do you think will be their toughest what's the toughest thing they're going through at this point?
Obviously, it's like bouncing back next. Now you've got to go back on the road. You've got 3 straight road games. So it's like you were coming off this big win big homecoming crowd, and now you've got to go on the road for 3 games. Rhode Island's going to be a tough one to go on the road. Stonehill and Mercyhurst figure to be winnable, so maybe you're looking at 3-3 when they come home for the Robert Morris game on October 18th. Right. This being a non-conference game doesn't necessarily totally torpedo their hopes for a season, because obviously they can still go on a run in the NEC and potentially get, they're hoping to contend, with the upper echelon teams in the conference like Central Connecticut for, the conference title and an automatic bid to the NCAA FCS championship. But it's one of those, it's such a momentum changer in the wrong way. You've come up again.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
It's like, again, you had, because you had the opener against Florida, which you knew was going to go the way it did. But the way it did. You take the learning experiences from that, which appeared they applied very well against Eastern Michigan, because again, never trailed in that game. Then it just seemed like they could never find that same, as the guys in the booth talked about how they didn't struggled 19 passing yards for the game after 248 last week.
Right.
It's and when you don't, and last week they had such a balanced offense, and today they just couldn't get the passing game in gear at all. And obviously, also looking ahead to next week, we talk about Stanzani and Howell, but we also got to mention the guy who didn't play this week, Ethan Greenwood. I'm sure they're expecting him to be back, which would be a huge shot in the arm for the offense. But it's one of those. It's just and having rooted in my life for a lot of teams who were on the doorstep of very rarely made it through the door. It's just like it was right. You feel like it was right there, and now
this game was winnable, and they absolutely they didn't execute the way we expected them to, especially after the win in Eastern Michigan. And I'm sure they are going to be analyzing this completely Monday morning. So,
all right. And we're going to throw it back now to Jeff and Neil and Travis back at the booth. Final score again today. Sacred Heart Pioneers 24, LIU Sharks 21. You've been listening to Sharks football on LIU Sports Radio. Let's throw it back to the guys at Shark Stadium for final thoughts. Guys?
All right, John. Thank you, and thank you, Jeannie. Always, that was really great to hear both of you all day today.